Tonight, the Prime Minister accused of abandoning Victoria in our darkest hour after a pandemic record 1,488 new COVID cases. Plus, police take down protesters as mandatory new vaccine rules sink in. The major change to help keep Melbourne supermarkets open and food on the shelves. Tributes from all walks of life for Gladys Berejiklian as the race for the New South Wales leadership heats up. And a train line turns into a raging river with flash flooding in Melbourne's north.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Mike Amor.
Good evening. More than 11 weeks into a snap lockdown, Victoria has just recorded almost 1,500 new COVID cases, our worst daily number in the pandemic so far. We're being warned there's worse to come, as the Andrews government accuses Scott Morrison of abandoning our state.
From footy headquarters to vaccine pop-up in less than a week. Footscray's Whitten Oval hosting a big crowd, 2,000 people over 2 days. Helping our vaccination rate grow as our case numbers do the same. 1,488 new infections, a pandemic record for Victoria, eclipsing even Thursday's total, which was blamed on illegal grand final parties.
This is a very perilous path that we're on and that we all need to resolve together to hold it down for that much longer.
The north and west are now joined by Melbourne's southeast, a new problem area with 1/5 of today's cases.
The map again is looking as it was a few days ago. It's a much more blurred picture.
2 men in their 60s have died from COVID. At Footscray, community and health teams work smoothly with state and federal departments.
Mate, West is at its best when we work together, and today is a great example of that.
But that cooperation is still missing higher up the political chain.
Apparently it's not a race when it comes to vaccinations, but it is a race when it comes to ending financial support for businesses doing it tough.
Our Treasurer says New South Wales has received more than $6 billion in disaster payments since Sydney went into lockdown on June 25, compared to $2.4 billion given to Victoria since Melbourne's lockdown, which began weeks later, July 15. The attack came as $196 million in grants for the construction industry was announced by the Victorian government.
If the Prime Minister wants us to stop calling him the Prime Minister for New South Wales, well, he has to stop acting like it. Businesses have been abandoned yet again. This is mean-spirited behaviour.
Federal Treasurer Josh Frydenberg hit back on Facebook saying on a per-day basis of this outbreak, support delivered to Victorian businesses has been higher than to New South Wales.
This idea that Victoria has somehow been shortchanged is a complete and utter fallacy.
Victoria sits tonight at 81.7% of adults with at least one vaccine dose. 51% are fully vaccinated. Wyndham is pushing ahead faster than the rest of the city, up to 87% first dose.
People who live in Moreland and Darebin, where we're seeing 73% and 75% first dose, that we really encourage people there to come forward and get vaccinated. We'd really like to level up.
He says relief isn't too far away.
We're, 4 or 5 weeks away from 80% double dose. It is not an impossible distance. We've all got to do our bit.
Almost 100 Victorians are in intensive care with COVID. Blake Johnson, it's putting growing pressure on our hospital system.
And there is a growing theme, Mike, through these steadily increasing numbers of people in hospital. Let's take a look at those numbers tonight. 429 COVID patients in Melbourne hospitals, a jump of 34 on yesterday. 95% are not fully vaccinated. In fact, almost 3/4 haven't even had a single vaccine dose. In intensive care tonight, there are 97 Victorians. 54 are so unwell they need ventilators to keep them alive. We are told the peak in hospitalisations isn't due for another couple of weeks. Mike?
Blake, thank you. Police have moved in to stop protesters as they marched around the Tan this afternoon. Hundreds of Melburnians enjoying an afternoon picnic, watching on as the chaos unfolded.
Police move in fast to tackle and arrest. As anti-lockdown and anti-mandate protesters are grabbed on the Tan. They had been loud and defiant, gathering in the Royal Botanic Gardens before walking the streets and blocking some. walking the same path where Demons supporters gathered last Sunday to celebrate without police intervention.
Many young families are concerned, especially about giving it to our children when we have no long-term safety data on this.
At best, you're running the risk of generating more transmission. At worst, you're fueling a bonfire.
As the group crossed over St Kilda Road again, police formed a line across all lanes to stop the group from going back to the shrine. It wasn't a target today like last week, but police were there just in case. Instead, the group circled for almost an hour.
Our money, our choice!
At times disagreeing on their direction. Well outnumbered by police before they moved in from behind to stop the illegal gathering.
They start making arrests on the rear line and stay together.
Officers grabbed a few to disperse the rest.
Police state, mate. Do you have anything on you? Peaceful protest. Listen.
This man says he lost his job in construction.
We're not here to cause violence. We're here to fight peacefully for our rights.
You copped a fine, you're going to pay it?
No, I'll contest it because it gets dropped.
Police now facing the issue themselves. They're part of yesterday's vaccination mandate for more than 1 million authorised workers.
Modelling shows that there's some communities where we can make a really big difference, and authorised workers is one of those.
Some others refusing to get the jab even if it stalls their business.
I have chosen to, in the short term, to say goodbye to a wonderful career and just wait till I've got clarity.
This marriage celebrant now trying to think of ways around it.
I'm going to have to get either very creative with my work. At the moment, I'm working on Zoom mainly. But again, the rules on this, the clarity, it's still vague.
Footy players also taking sides.
I think everyone's pretty happy to roll up their sleeve and do their bit for the team and the community.
And Paul Dowsley is at the Tan tonight. And Paul, police are yet to reveal just how many arrests were made.
Still telling the numbers, Mike, for arrests and how many were fined. I probably would have seen 12 or 15 people arrested here. That group, after they dispersed from here, did try to form again nearby on Chapel Street. Not much success there. Probably a group of only about 10 gathered before they too dispersed. Online this afternoon, they have conceded that they were lacking in numbers here today. But, Mike, they've promised they'll be back again hitting the streets next Saturday.
Paul Dowsley, thank you. A breakthrough deal is being tested to stop supermarket closures in the COVID fallout. Tracy Macbeth is at a Coles in Collingwood. And Tracy, there's a lot at stake here for other essential industries too.
Mike, it's all about staff being forced into isolation after someone with COVID has visited the store. Victoria's strict 14-day rule has so many staff out of action for so long that stores are struggling to fill their shifts. This trial will allow some supermarket staff to have shorter periods of isolation, if any, providing some hope to struggling businesses. Frustration on both sides of the glass as short-staffed supermarkets are forced to close.
Very frustrating. I can understand why they've had lockdowns, completely understand, but it's ridiculous. I mean, we've got to open up the areas.
For the sake of a few, the whole lot has got to suffer.
The Woolworths Water Garden South and Altona North are shut until at least Tuesday. Plus, there are reduced trading hours at 21 Woolies and 15 Coles supermarkets. Over the past 3 months, 45,000 Coles and Woolies staff have spent 2 weeks in isolation. No one has tested positive. Under the pilot, only high-risk staff will face 2 weeks quarantine. Isolation times could be reduced or removed altogether based on a risk assessment similar to hospitals.
It's a more targeted, nuanced approach with a different grading depending on the type of exposure.
Authorities say the decision is based on supermarkets' high level of compliance, vaccination rates and next to no transmission. Industry experts say it's not just supermarkets. The impact is felt right across the grocery supply chain. And urgent action is needed to shore up the $133 billion sector.
It only takes a couple of isolated other COVID cases to cause more problems, which means more people won't be able to go to work, which could mean that you have manufacturing plants that are closed.
If successful, it's hoped other industries and the community will follow suit.
Absolutely. If it's successful, it's something we'd want to roll out to other settings.
And Tracy, you have developing news on our meat supplies.
Mike, 7 News understands there are outbreaks at several of the state's biggest abattoirs. They're still working with DHS to see how many workers have been exposed and will have to quarantine. The industry says it's still too early to tell if there will be any meat shortages, but stresses it is a highly vaccinated industry with strict COVID protocols in place. Mike.
Tracy, thank you. Residents in Shepparton have woken up to their 8th lockdown. The Moorabool Shire, which includes Ballan and Bacchus Marsh, is also living under the same rules as Melbourne for 7 days.
I really want to apologise to the whole community in Shepparton. Of course, we do that with a heavy heart. So it's a very difficult decision for Ben to make. We have 10 new cases in Shepparton in today's numbers. 6 of those are linked across 4 different households. That includes a case involving a grand final party with 17 other people.
There are 71 new cases across regional areas today. The Rugby League Grand Final is going ahead tomorrow night, with Queensland narrowly avoiding a lockdown despite 5 clusters across the state. There's 2 new cases today, both already in quarantine.
A day is a long time in COVID, but things are looking really positive.
There's 813 new cases in New South Wales today and more than 1,000 COVID patients in hospital. The ACT recorded 52 cases. A leading candidate is emerging in the race to replace Gladys Berejiklian after her shock resignation. Former Prime Minister John Howard today weighed into the scandal that's rocked New South Wales politics with national ramifications.
Flowers, cards and handwritten notes pile up outside Gladys Berejiklian's electoral office to mark the end of an extraordinary political career.
Gladys has put so much of herself into this. She's been there for us. She's been a stable centre.
I think the whole state is grieving at the loss of not only a very good, competent Premier, but a very decent person.
Ms Berejiklian kept a low profile as she contemplates life away from politics. The public today sung her praises.
A great leader, a great person, whatever politics you're on, she did amazing.
But it was her private life that proved her undoing. A secret affair with former MP Daryl Maguire sparking a corruption investigation.
I thought her resignation statement yesterday was the epitome of grace under pressure.
The New South Wales Liberal Party will elect its new leader on Tuesday morning. State Treasurer Dominic Perrottet, the overwhelming favourite.
I don't want to discuss hypotheticals. If I reach the decision that I put my hand up, then I'll have something further to say about that.
I think overall, Dominic Perrottet would be the right person. We need somebody. Sorry for the accompaniment.
A new top dog in the middle of a pandemic, hoping to lead Australia's biggest state out of its biggest crisis. Jacqueline Felgate, 7 News.
2 young men remain on life support in the Royal Melbourne Hospital as tributes pour in for 4 of their friends killed in a shocking crash in Truganina on Thursday night. None of the 6 was wearing a seatbelt when the 16-year-old unlicensed driver collided with a truck on Doherty's Road. The truck driver is expected to make a full recovery. Unapproved vaccines from China and India are now key to more than 100,000 foreign students returning to Australia. A controversial decision opens the door to the students but leaves many Australians stranded.
For the past 18 months, Gerald Huan's life has been on hold.
All my friends and pets are in Sydney, but I do miss them.
Stuck in Shanghai, the finance undergraduate is one of more than 130,000 international students banned from returning to Australia since the border gates were locked last March.
Students just have been waiting and waiting for a very long time.
But the wait is nearly over. Australia's drug regulator, the TGA, has officially recognised China's Sinovac and India's Covishield vaccines for incoming travellers, opening the door for offshore students to return when the border reopens from next month.
This is a good and really sensible decision.
Welcome news for universities too, which have taken a massive financial hit.
Universities lost $1.8 billion last year. We project they'll lose $2 billion this year.
The sector now wants assurances students will be allowed back in time for the start of semester 1 next year. But the government says the priority is getting Australian citizens and residents stuck overseas home first. Students arguing they should be prioritised too.
Because we are residents in this country and we pay taxes.
For many, like Gerald, who was given Sinovac for his first shot, but a different brand not recognised by the TGA for his second, they also want clarity.
If I want to back to Australia, is that okay?
Questions still to be answered. Rob Scott, 7 News.
Melbourne's bus fleet is being overhauled with a new operator and electric buses. Kinetic, which runs Skybus, has been awarded a $2.3 billion contract to take over a third of our routes. It'll also introduce 36 electric vehicles to be made in Dandenong South.
It's a win for jobs, it's a win for passengers, and it's also a win for sustainability.
The first 5 new electric buses should be on the road by next June. Heavy rain and flash flooding has lashed parts of Melbourne's north. Emergency crews had to free passengers trapped on a train that became stuck in floodwater.
Neighbourhood streets and parkland turned into a raging river.
Oh dear, look at Bobo's house. I wonder if they need some help.
Pascoe Vale was hit with flash flooding late yesterday. Some ignored warnings.
Oh
my God.
While SES crews worked to free trapped passengers on a train as water quickly flooded the tracks. Today, families and their 4-legged friends explored the damage.
How would you describe it?
A lot of water. The bench was covered with water and it was going around all the trees really fast.
It was pretty exciting, I guess. I was looking out the front window of our house and you could see when the creek broke its banks and it came down in like a wave down the footpath.
We've seen this fill up before and it becomes a big puddle, but never quite to that extent. That was the worst I've seen.
Although it might not look like much now, up to 24 millimetres of rainfall hit parts of Melbourne's inner north overnight. 24 hours ago, this park and road were underwater.
Oh, we don't get much entertainment, so this is really good.
Cassie Zervos, 7 News.
See the fog rolling in behind us.
I know, very strange.
Jackie Felgate is here with a look ahead of sport. And Jack, the Blues continue to make off-season moves.
Hello, Mike. Yes, they do. They've added another midfielder to the mix. We'll have the latest from today's trade shortly. Also, the Roos rally around an emotional Ben Cunnington after a season disrupted by his cancer fight. The hot horse that's blossomed in the spring takes Group 1 glory, eyeing off the Caulfield Cup. Wild weather lashes the Gold Coast as the Aussies have a fight on their hands in the test against India. And Mike, the real-life Happy Gilmore contest that's included a big-name star. I love that movie. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, Jack. See you then. Dozens of brides-to-be have been left in the lurch as a popular Bayside wedding venue folds. Next, how businesses are struggling with the COVID roadmap. Also, an urgent recall for a popular fruit drink. Why your health insurance premiums could soon be going down. The Queen back in public for the first time in 2 months. Plus a Christmas shopping warning and how to earn extra cash online. 2 special reports later in 7 News. We have news just in now. Police have revealed 109 people were arrested at today's illegal protest, as we reported earlier. The group marched around the Tan and Botanic Gardens before officers swooped. The protesters are promising to be back next week. There's mounting pressure on Victorian small businesses navigating how to reopen with strict capacity limits and enforcing mandatory vaccine rules. Dozens of couples have been left in the lurch with a popular Melbourne venue folding, blaming 2 years of lockdowns and uncertainty about how to open up.
3 months ago, Jennifer Lee was desperate to get back to business.
This is just one of my function rooms. It's empty.
But despite the roadmap stipulating weddings can return next month, the doors of the Brighton Savoy will remain shut.
We are so sorry that we could not survive long enough in order to host the most special day in our couple's lives.
Elizabeth McGurr was meant to get married there on November 19.
What should have been the happiest day of my life has just turned into a complete nightmare.
She believes Lee's views on vaccinations influenced the decision to close.
That they have strong opinions around vaccinations. But unfortunately, they've just completely abandoned the people that were relying on them and helping support them as well.
Other brides have told 7 News they haven't been offered refunds. Some are out of pocket up to $6,000.
They're not answering questions, not helping us.
But the venue maintains continued lockdowns left them with little choice.
Our 54-year-old family business has been completely destroyed.
The Savoy says it's contacting all couples with details of 9 alternative venues who'll honour their deposits. But some brides have told 7 News those venues aren't comparable because their packages are far more expensive.
It's not apples for apples. They're giving us apples and champagne.
It comes as businesses across the state prepare how to navigate opening up to vaccinated guests. Bellinzona Accommodation, one business set to welcome Melburnians back on November 5.
I look at the vaccine passport as a tool, as a necessary tool.
Estelle Greepink, 7 News.
A man has been charged with murder, accused of stabbing a woman to death in Noble Park. Emergency crews were called to the Kelvinside Road home around 2 on Thursday morning. The 26-year-old victim was taken to hospital but later died. The accused killer has been remanded in custody. There's an urgent recall tonight for a popular fruit drink sold nationally at Coles. The 750ml glass bottle of Devondale 100% sparkling apple juice is at risk of breaking. Customers can return the product to the place of purchase for a full refund. Patients could save on private health insurance premiums after a federal government deal slashing the cost of surgical sponges and glues. It's claimed the items were being deliberately overpriced, leaving patients and providers out of pocket. Extra reforms could limit premium price hikes in 2023. Princess Beatrice has paid tribute to the Queen, revealing she's named her daughter in honour of the monarch. The 95-year-old today returned to public engagements after a summer break, working alongside her son, Prince Charles.
Rugged up for Scotland's blustery autumn, the Queen in gumboots and a headscarf is put to work on the Balmoral estate, a shovel in hand, helping to plant a copper beech tree.
It looks to me as if somebody's going to have to do some hard work on this one.
It's part of the Queen's Green Canopy, a planned network of trees to celebrate her Platinum Jubilee. Joined by local school children for the occasion, they've been making their own crowns, remaining completely unfazed by the presence of real royalty.
Did you make sure within the question?
It's the first time the Queen has appeared in public in 2 months. Hunkered down at Balmoral, she's been visited multiple times by son Prince Andrew as he weathers a legal storm. Next year's Platinum Jubilee will be headlined by 4 days of celebrations. Britons will get an extra public holiday for the occasion as the Queen's family continues to grow. Princess Beatrice and husband Edo announcing their newborn daughter's name, Sienna Elizabeth. Another nod to the Queen in her 70th year on the throne. In London, Hugh Whitfield, 7 News.
There's been a show of Australia's military might off the coast of Sydney. Special Forces personnel parachuted into the ocean as part of an annual training drill. They were picked up by high-speed inflatable boats. The exercise was to simulate a covert raid on enemy forces. As we saw earlier, flash flooding has affected parts of Melbourne. Melina Saris joins us now. And Mel, these storms were hit and miss.
They were, Mike. Some parts had heavy rain and flash flooding, while others right next door hardly had anything. The highest total was Fawkner with 51 millimetres. Nearby Somerton had just 2. Jacana had 38, but a couple of suburbs over Essendon had just 16. We'll start with sunshine tomorrow before the wet weather returns later in the day. I will have all of those details right after sport, Mike.
It's good to have a break from the wet weather. Thanks, Mel. There's anger brewing in Melbourne's east. Next, why a memorial to World War I heroes is set to be torn down. Also, the new pill, touted as a game changer in treating COVID. One of the world's biggest stars goes unnoticed at an American pub. And how you can join a record number of Aussies earning extra cash online. There's a fight underway to save an avenue of honour for World War I diggers in Melbourne's east. It's set to become a victim of the government's level crossing removal project. Mont Albert locals say the destruction of the trees is disrespectful to the sacrifice of local families.
This living memorial set to be chopped down, devastating for descendants of a local family who sacrificed so much.
These sorts of memorials need to be protected and respected, just as you respect the service of the men that they commemorate.
John Trevorrow takes the medals of his great-uncle Will Head to a tree planted in his honour, just 21, killed in Gallipoli on the first Anzac Day.
Knowing that Will had died and his body was never found was a source of great pain for the family.
Still, Will's 3 brothers later volunteered to fight and survive the war.
To know that those 4 boys did what they did is a source of great pride. So these are the 9 trees, John.
Local resident Simon Sear says they were planted for the Head brothers and 5 other local servicemen in 1965.
On the 50th anniversary of Will Head's death, when he stepped ashore on Anzac Cove.
But now, as 2 nearby level crossings are removed and 2 stations amalgamated, the trees will be cut down.
To provide for a critical access point to the railway, and that is required to safely maintain and operate the railway line.
I just think it's so disrespectful.
Residents say this battle is the least they can do for local heroes.
It's actually a shocking insult that you would so disrespectfully and unthoughtfully knock these trees down.
I think it's disgraceful if they can't find an alternative solution.
Nick McCallum, 7 News.
Most mail deliveries from America to Australia have been suspended. The United States Postal Service says it's due to the unavailability of transport. Many items bound for Australia have been returned to their American senders. Deliveries have also been suspended to another 20 countries, including Afghanistan and Syria. A single pill could be a game changer in the battle to save lives and live with COVID. It's an antiviral tablet showing so far it can slash hospitalisations and death rates.
It's a tiny pill that could dramatically shift the course of this pandemic.
This is a phenomenal result. I mean, this is a profound game changer to have an oral pill that had this kind of effect.
Known as Molnupiravir, the American drug maker behind the breakthrough claims if taken twice a day for 5 days, when COVID symptoms begin, the antiviral drug slashes the chance of hospitalisation and death in half.
This is a potential additional tool in our toolbox to protect people from the worst outcomes of COVID.
The experimental pill has been compared to Tamiflu, a drug taken within days of flu symptoms. But at this stage, Merck's offering has only been tested on unvaccinated people. Still, it has early backing from the US government. It's ordered 1.7 million doses as it awaits emergency use authorization.
The company, when they briefed us last night, had mentioned that they will be submitting their data to the FDA imminently.
The potential breakthrough as the country's capital keeps count of a mounting death toll. Here, each white flag, an American life. 700,000 now dead, the US tracking at just under 2,000 lives lost a day, with just 56% of Americans fully immunised. A number experts say urgently needs to rise, even with a potential wonder drug on the horizon. In the United States, David Woywood, 7 News.
An 8-storey building has come crashing down in a spectacular landslide in India. The collapsed building had been evacuated a fortnight earlier, fearing it could collapse after heavy rain. 2 adjoining buildings were damaged, but no one was hurt. He's one of the world's biggest stars, but no one in a South Carolina bar seemed to notice Mick Jagger quietly having a beer. He posted this photo himself outside a dingy little pub called the Thirsty Beaver Saloon. The Stones are currently touring in the US. A record number of Australians are now working at least 2 jobs, but one online platform claims we're missing out on tens of thousands of dollars every year by failing to make the most of our digital skills.
Patrick Detal spent years developing skills in search engine optimization. Successfully marketing his own business, he realised others could use his help.
I didn't expect anything to come out of it, but I knew that I was good at SEO.
Signing up to an online freelancing platform, now roughly 10 hours of extra work a week brings in an additional six-figure income.
Around about $10,000 to $15,000 per month.
People are working less and they're needing to find other ways of getting some income.
More than 865,000 Australians are now working at least 2 jobs to make ends meet, that number rising during the pandemic.
Perhaps they've lost work through COVID, or they're just looking for a different experience to 9 to 5.
Online platform Fiverr estimates Australians could be making more than $40,000 a year by spending just 3 hours a day selling their digital skills.
Web design, graphic design, digital marketing, voice, illustration, audio, but there are hundreds.
You get to choose your own hours, so you get to be your own boss. It's really great, and it's just really nice that I can have something that I'm passionate about as a little side hobby, but I'm also making an income out of it.
One of the biggest advantages of using a platform such as Fiverr is they automatically offer protections that ensure you get paid for the work you complete.
Rather than maybe just finding someone through other sort of social media, you've got actually a contract about what you're going to deliver.
Amber Laidler, 7 News.
Victorians are being warned to brace for shopping pain this Christmas. Next, the supply chain kinks you need to know about. Also, why lockdown's not stopping hundreds of homes going under the hammer. Calls for a critical change to prostate cancer screening. And the top 5 names Australians give their cars. Melbourne's housing market is recovering from a COVID coma. More than 550 homes went under the hammer today with a 92% clearance rate. It's compared to just 38 auctions this time last year. Most of the sales were in Glen Waverley and Mount Waverley, and Rowville is proving to be a popular hotspot. It's already recorded its highest number of sales in 1 year, with still 3 months until the end of 2021. Industrial action and driver shortages are creating the perfect storm for Christmas chaos. Experts are warning shoppers to expect to miss out on some items if they don't get in early, but say others will be in abundance.
It's an unwanted Christmas curveball. Shoppers warned now stock shortages are coming.
We've had the perfect storm. Of course, the 2 biggest states in the country, both Sydney and Melbourne being in lockdown, has put significant pressure on the supply chain. And of course, we've had COVID cases in distribution centres and warehouses and ports.
Mandatory vaccinations are also driving some transport workers away from the industry.
But also strikes down the port, strikes in facilities themselves, but also a lack of new drivers.
But there are less than 100 days until Christmas. Australians are expected to spend more than $11 billion on presents this year, and almost half of that shopping is likely to be done online.
The best tip is, of course, if you're buying, the most popular gifts will be toys, jigsaw puzzles, board games. These are gifts that are generally imported from overseas, so make sure you're shopping for those items first.
The best buys may be clothing. Experts say apparel should be safe from the shortages.
Small business particularly has been decimated, particularly those CBD retailers.
But expect delivery delays and even be prepared to pay a little more.
The cost of getting containers into Australia now are as much as 10 times where they were 2 years ago. And that obviously has to impact on the prices of products.
It's important you shop early, you've got your list, you've checked it twice, and you're organised this Christmas.
Hope Wilson, 7 News.
More Australian men are being diagnosed with advanced prostate cancer, but experts say the current way to detect it is outdated. They're now calling for non-invasive tests to diagnose the disease earlier.
Winston Trude considers himself lucky despite his prostate cancer diagnosis, thanks to his GP.
Instead of waiting 12 months to do the test again, he said, come back in 3 months and we'll do another test. And yes, the level, my PSA reading level had gone up and stayed up.
The 80-year-old's prostate cancer was detected early because his doctor tested him against current guidelines. Now he's cancer-free. New research shows more men are being diagnosed with advanced prostate cancer than 4 years ago, with experts fearing the way health professionals are told to test and diagnose the disease are outdated.
The major issue is we think that possibly the previous guidelines are failing older men in the community The previous guidelines suggested that you get tested every 2 years.
We now use a different technique which reduces the risk of infection substantially. So many of the harms of testing that were there 5 to 10 years ago are no longer there anymore.
Previously, men would undergo invasive biopsies to get a diagnosis, but now doctors say it can be as easy as a blood test, then an MRI.
And it gives roughly about a 90 to 95% accuracy of whether someone does or doesn't have prostate cancer.
A PSA test is a simple blood test, but it's not the universal detection method for the disease. Now, Prostate Cancer Foundation Australia are calling on the federal government to review their current guidelines and make PSA tests mandatory.
Everything has changed with prostate cancer in the last 5 years.
Georgia Commons-Solly, 7 News.
Car lovers are celebrating their affection on Name Your Car Day. I kid you not. A car sales survey found 61% of people have named a car. The cars most likely to get that personal touch are Fords, Holdens and Toyotas, and they're most often white or blue. And in case you're wondering, the top 5 names are Big, Beast, Sally, Betty and Ruby. But some also not so appealing names like Heap of Junk. Can't tell you what Jackie Felgate calls her husband's car, but it's not.
The word lemon springs to mind. Give me the tip.
And Jack, a special honour for Nathan Buckley at the Pies.
That's right, Mike. Yes, we'll have the details of his lasting legacy next as Michael Voss makes his mark at the Blues. Carlton's latest recruit upstaged while a Roos favourite breaks down after an emotional season. Peter Moody takes down the hottest horse in the country and he's not done with yet. Tim Payne speaks out on the Ashes tour while the Aussie women begin their fight back on the Gold Coast. And a big bash on the driving range as Bryson DeChambeau puts on a show. Welcome back. Carlton coach Michael Voss has added another key piece to his midfield with Swans ball winner George Hewitt officially becoming a Blue, while a familiar face made an unexpected return at Magpie Land.
He comes to Carlton designed to be a supporting act, and George Hewitt took a back seat at his own press conference with son Henry, already happy to be in navy blue. Next, it was time to meet the coach.
George, congratulations, joining Carlton Football Club.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Cheers.
The Sydney midfielder will add much-needed depth to the Blues' engine room alongside the likes of Sam Walsh and Patrick Cripps as Michael Voss looks to develop a harder defensive edge across the ground.
You just have to look at the list to know how exciting the team and the list looks. So, yeah, I was pretty pumped.
The restricted free agent signed a 4-year deal. Sydney received an end-of-second-round pick as compensation. Nathan Buckley made a brief appearance at Collingwood's Best and Fairest after the club announced a new scholarship named in his honour.
You're bringing good people on board. The tough times don't last, so we've just got to swallow the bitter pill of last year and then move forward as best we possibly can.
Jack Crisp took out his first Copeland trophy, while it was an emotion-charged Sid Barker medal at Arden Street.
For some reason I'm getting a bit emotional, even though I didn't even win it.
Veteran Ben Cunnington vowing to return to the footy field after his cancer battle.
Just have the support from the club, the players, and my beautiful family. Yeah, I couldn't have done it without them.
Andrew McCormack, 7 News.
Yeah, a great person. Incentivise has proved he's the real deal with a stunning win in the Group 1 Turnbull Stakes at Flemington. The Peter Moody trained horse is now hot favourite for the Caulfield Cup.
A race and a horse that lived up to the hype.
And Incentivise has won. A new Group 1 star has won it from young Berta Chapada. Photo fourth, very elegant.
Incentivise extending his winning streak to 8 and showing a star-studded Turnbull field why he's the favourite for the Caulfield Cup.
It just showed terrific courage, and this will really bring him on for the Caulfield Cup in 2 weeks. We probably came into this just slightly soft.
It's a big effort today. I'm proud of him. They just didn't leave him alone. He didn't get much peace.
In Sydney, it was Private Eye swooping late to take out the time-honoured Epsom handicap.
Regan Bayliss punches it out and Private Eye won the Epsom.
Tommy Berry helped Masked Crusader channel the Great Chautauqua, coming from last to win the Group 2 Premier Stakes.
Masked Crusader from last, a miraculous get out of jail.
The win setting him up nicely for the Everest in 2 weeks' time. Hugh Bowman, the man who piloted Winx throughout her magnificent career, reached a milestone of his own today, notching up 100 career Group 1 wins in the Metropolitan aboard Montefilia.
One horse was involved in a quarter of those 100 victories, so that in itself is amazing, but I really miss having the atmosphere.
Australian captain Tim Payne says he's prepared to go into quarantine and a biosecurity bubble if it means keeping the Ashes series alive. The Aussie women have had a fight on their hands in the test against India on the Gold Coast, with a big run chase ahead to secure a result.
Wild storms 24 hours apart allowed just 101 overs in 2 days and ensured India scored without the menace of a pink ball under lights. A result will need imagination.
It will be challenging, I think, but if we get a chance, I'm sure we'll still try and push to make something of it.
But India, with only an occasional flourish, were in no hurry, infuriating the Aussies.
They don't really look like they've got any sort of intent. Doesn't look like it at any point.
Highlights were rare. Stella Campbell's first Test wicket helped the Aussies' mood.
Got her, there's the edge.
And she was afforded the traditional celebration. Deeply reached her second Test 50 and threatened to unleash, but the tourists were absorbing valuable time. Still, dinner would have tasted better when Perry grabbed her 300th wicket.
Nick, and what a catch! Beth Mooney, an absolute screamer.
Strangely, they returned after dinner before declaring Australia now face the night sessions against a swinging ball. And a sigh of relief from selectors before the Ashes. Tim Payne's recovering well from surgery and continues to pressure England to tour.
I realise that the bio bubbles are wearing on players, but it is part of the world we live in. It's part of our job at the moment. Yeah, I think we've got a bit of a responsibility to try and keep the game moving.
Pat Welch, 7 News.
A bitter feud with the 76ers is costing Ben Simmons plenty. The Aussie star was due to be paid $11 million yesterday, but the franchise has held the money back and will begin fining the Aussie star more than $300,000 for every game he misses. Philly will face Toronto on Tuesday morning in a pre-season game, with Simmons requesting a trade to another club. And big-hitting golfer Bryson DeChambeau has wowed the crowd in Nevada. Not on the PGA Tour, but at the World Long Drive Championship, where he hammered a 380-metre bomb, and weren't they excited?
Oh, let's go! DeChambeau! Yes, that was unbelievable. What a show! Are you not entertained? Let's go!
We are entertained. He made it through to the top 8 but couldn't produce the goods in the finals. And Mike, that is all for Saturday Sport.
OK, thanks, Jack. Mel is next with the forecast. How's tomorrow looking, Mel?
Well, Mark, I would plan a picnic in the first half of the day. We'll have sunshine, then afternoon showers. I'll have all of those details right after the break. We started with drizzle, but it turned into a sunny afternoon, and there will be more sunshine tomorrow. The city began on a low of 13 and made it to a top of 17. Outside now it is 14, and we've got some fog rolling through this evening. Showers and thunderstorms have caused some flooding. There's a moderate flood warning for the Latrobe River and a few minor flood warnings there as well. A low will move southeastwards, allowing a weak ridge to drift across us overnight. A trough pushes through western and central Victoria on Sunday, then eastern parts of the state on Monday. So tomorrow for Victoria, we will begin with some fog. It'll be partly cloudy to start, but widespread showers will move through from the northwest, reaching our central districts, including Melbourne by the evening. Thunderstorms are also possible in the west. Light winds will become moderate northerly during the morning ahead of a westerly change. Closer in, the first half of the day will be dry and partly cloudy, but we should see some showers during the afternoon and evening. Light northerly winds will allow these temperatures to climb into the 20s. So we will see some showers developing in the city tomorrow later on in the day. From a low of 11, we are heading for a top of 22 degrees. On Monday, showers from the late morning and it'll become windy 17. Tuesday is very similar, showers and windy. Late showers on Wednesday 21. Thursday is just 15, but showers will ease throughout the day. Friday, dry and partly cloudy, 20 degrees, and a possible shower next Saturday, 23. And a reminder that our clocks move forward an hour tonight for daylight savings, so we will have later sunsets and more daylight in the afternoon as summer approaches, Mike.
Good reminder, I had forgotten. Thanks, Mel. And that's 7 News for this Saturday night. Thanks for your company. For now, from the 7 News team, have a great night.